Thank you. Buenos Aires. I've worked a lot in Manchester, in the north of England, for many years, which is a different kind of textile city. And when I was working there, the textile industry was finished. So no real chance of redeveloping that. So it's very nice to be here in Prato with a textile, much more beautiful textile town than Manchester, with still real skills and real industry existing. I worried about using the term creative city because it's become, for me, an example of what has been called fast policy. Ideas that quickly circulate the globe and they're taken up by different cities and different actors, and it's usually a one-size-fits-all new idea that's going to be put in place in a city, and then we move on to the next one. And I think creative cities has been quite damaging sometimes in the way it's taken over the policy agenda, but it's been done in a very superficial way. And along with creative cities, we have smart cities, we have digital cities, we have the creative class, all those sort of things that go with it. And I'd like to say something about how the idea of creative city can be made useful a bit. I think there's been three main definitions of creative cities. The first one, very much associated with Charles Landry, I think, and it's really about how cities can rethink themselves, how they can find new ways of governing themselves to meet challenges of the future. And I have a lot of sympathy with that, and I think Dan Hill, who will speak after me very shortly, will speak a bit more about that. But very often, this approach became a shopping list of different ideas. Oh, they did this, and they did that, and the other city did that, and why don't you do it? And it can be a very, again, superficial use of ideas from anywhere. The second idea of creative cities is very much related to, we've heard his name tonight, Richard Florida. And he had the idea that there is a new creative class, a professional class, whose skills lie in ideas mainly, who are attracted to places that have nice amenities and facilities for that kind of person. And it very much became the idea of the 3 T's, talent, technology and toleration. Very, very successful project, or very, very successful idea, this. But I have to say that it's been seriously questioned in academic literature and in the world of policy, because it's been very much a quick fix. It's building cafes, building art galleries, building bike paths, building anything that might attract this creative class. And it's not really worked. And in fact, what we find is actually the idea of if we build these amenities, the creative class will come, is just not true. But for me, the most damaging aspect of Richard Florida's work is it's all about consumption. It's about developing consumption infrastructures in cities to attract a creative class from somewhere else. And I think this is a model we really have to move on from. The third model is really what we might call creative industries, cultural industries, creative industries. And this is an area I've been very much involved with. But I would say that there is an easy version of the creative industries. And when it was first invented in the late 90s by the new Labour government in England, it became very popular. It was in China, it was in Singapore, it was in Taiwan. Everybody began to talk about creative industries. And what they often meant was it was about ideas, it was about creativity, it was about intellectual property, and it was going to be driven by mobile, young, creative, weightless people who would sit in their bedrooms with a computer and come up with this great new code. I'm very simplifying, but the idea was anybody could become a creative city. They just need to develop these, attract these people. But it's so. Again, I think that was very much a superficial account of it. But I think underneath it lay a much broader approach, which I would call cultural economy or creative economy, if you like, where it's not just small groups of new digital and intellectual property companies, but it's a much broader approach. I think that it's actually a mixture of commercial, of public, of social, and not-for-profit companies and businesses and freelancers and institutions. It's about a complex infrastructure in the city. It's about different institutions. It's about supply chains and skills. What I mean is that it's a very complex ecosystem that has to underpin the creative industries or the creative economy. And this presented some very real problems because it's clear, and you just read the statistics, that the big capitals, London, New York, Paris, Tokyo, Milan, these remain the major concentrations of cultural and creative industries. And they remain so because they've been so for many, many years. It's what we might call sunk capital. You know, there's lots of investment gone in there for many years. We might also call it path dependency. They became cultural capitals many years ago. It's not easy for other cities, textile cities, manufacturing cities, small cities, to suddenly become centres of the creative industries. It's not that easy to do. And the second real problem faced by that was the creative industries, as we heard in the introduction, were often seen as replacement industries. Manufacture's old, it's finished, bye, goodbye, it's the past. We must move on to the next stage. But in fact, again, it's clear that the kinds of people employed in the creative industries are not the people employed in these older industries. They do not simply absorb labour from old industries. And there's some real problems here where industrial cities have high levels of industrial employment, even though it might have a creative economy somewhere else. So we've got to be very careful, I think, about just jumping into these policies. So I would suggest that to really think about what a creative city is, how that can really influence a new kind of economy in the city, it's really about research, slow thinking about what you are. It's about new levels of consultation. And it's really about understanding where the city has come from, what kind of skills exist in it, what kind of economies exist in it, what kind of institutions exist in it. And again, I would say if Prato is serious about trying to think, where is the future, what is the next step in this challenging times, it's really about understanding what it is now, what its infrastructure is, and really what it could be, what kind of new kinds of governance structures might be in place. And so, I mean, at this stage in this project, which hopefully will evolve, I think that the question is to take a very realistic look of where Prato is, but at the same time begin to, if you like, reimagine what that future could be. And I think this is the key to it. And I think this is something that cities maybe can learn from some of the cultural industries that have faced real challenges in the last decade or so. You know, you think about bookshops or libraries or record shops, or record industries, music industries, film industries, publishing industries. The whole of the cultural industries have been challenged by new forms of digital distribution, new kinds of creation and distribution. And they've had to think, what do we do? Okay, we make books, we make records, we make films, but actually people buy our books, people buy our records, they download them in different ways. What kind of value do we add? And I think this is one of the real core aspects of the idea of a creative city. It's not get rid of that, move on to the next big thing, but what is it that we do? What is it that we have been doing? And can we reframe this, rethink it, understand what kind of value we are adding, and take advantage of that? And I think it's in this kind of thinking and learning how to do that, what kind of conversations we need to have to do that, is at the heart of the idea of reframing the creative city. And on that note, I'm going to hand over to Dan, who's going to say a lot more about that with some nice pictures as well. Okay, well, thank you.